President Trump is highlighting the economy, yet has had little to say about the rampant spread of the novel coronavirus. The Labor Department's June jobs report says the U.S. added 4.8 million jobs last month, and unemployment dropped to 11.1%. The president says the economy is roaring back.
Today's announcement proves that our economy is roaring back. It's coming back extremely strong. We have some areas where we're putting out the flames or the fires, and that's working out well. We're working very closely with governors, and I think it's working out very well. I think you'll see that shortly.
Meanwhile, the U.S. saw more than 50,000 new coronavirus cases on Wednesday. That's the highest daily increase since the outbreak began. 3 states, California, Texas, and Florida, make up nearly half of those new cases. Vice President Mike Pence met with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis today. DeSantis said cases in his state increased 12% in the last week, but said it was the result of more testing. President Trump is set to travel to the Sunshine State next week for a closed-door fundraiser. Newly released fundraising numbers show Mr. Trump trailing presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden for the second month in a row. The Biden campaign and the Democratic National Committee raised $141 million in June, compared to $131 million raised by the president's reelection campaign and the Republican National Committee. Josh Kraushaar joins me now. He is the National Journal Daily's senior national political columnist. Hi, Josh. Thanks so much for being with us. So Joe Biden offered some sharp criticism of President Trump on the economy and the coronavirus. Let's listen to some of what he had to say.
Today's report is positive news, and I'm thankful for it, for real. But make no mistake, we're still in a deep, deep job hole, because Donald Trump has so badly bungled the response to the coronavirus and now has basically given up on responding at all. You know, a million more Americans millions of them would still have their job if Donald Trump had done his job. There's no victory to be celebrated. We should hope, but there's no victory to be celebrated. We're still down nearly 15 million jobs, and the pandemic is getting worse, not better. And it doesn't have to. Millions of Americans are still out of work, wondering when or if their job will come back, or worried about how to pay the bills in the meantime. Trump wants to declare his health crisis over and unemployment solved. Yesterday, he was once more claiming the coronavirus would, quote, just disappear, I hope, quote, just disappear, I hope. That's what he said. It's like deja vu all over again. We're months into this crisis, and that's still his best answer?
So, Josh, President Trump has sought to focus his reelection campaign on the economy. Joe Biden appears to be focusing on the president's response to the pandemic. Is that working for Biden?
It is, because the focus of many voters is on the president, not on the challenger. And when you see polls that show a vast majority of Americans dissatisfied with the direction of the country, concerned about the president's handling of the pandemic, and dealing with a lot of the racial issues, too, affecting the country, there is a lot of burden on the president that Joe Biden just doesn't face. Now, what Joe Biden was trying to do today was respond to Trump's strongest issue. The one silver lining for the president is that more voters than not trust him in handling the economy, and the good jobs numbers, the relatively good jobs numbers released today, give Trump some encouragement. It's why he went before the cameras immediately this morning to tout the improving economic conditions. But that Biden response was a reminder that health and the economy are tied together. And he wanted to make sure his argument that you're not going to have a booming economy until the pandemic is solved. That was the Democrats' argument. That was Biden's statement today, and it's one that I think a lot of voters they listen to very carefully. It's something that they agree with.
You know, it was notable as well that the president didn't take any questions. We thought perhaps it was going to be an opportunity for reporters to ask questions, but he left after making those statements regarding the economy. So you have a new piece out titled "Prepare for a Biden Landslide." And you write that the president is starting to see support soften within his base. Why?
Yeah, it's not just the seniors and swing voters, but you look at some of the latest polls, and evangelical voters are not as overwhelmingly supportive of the president as they were a few months ago. Rural voters, a Fox News poll showed Trump only had a 9-point lead over Joe Biden with rural voters that were a key base for him in 2016. So the real story of why we're seeing Joe Biden with a double-digit lead, surely he's winning swing voters, he's winning seniors, which is a big constituency, but the final straw for the president is that he's losing and seeing softening support among key elements of his base. And maybe they come home at the end. Maybe they end up voting Republican as we get closer to the November election. But that is just a huge red flag for the Trump campaign. It's why that they're spending money right now in states like Georgia, in Iowa, in Ohio. These are states that the president won comfortably in the last election, and he's down or tied with Joe Biden in all the latest polls.
Yeah, we're still 4 months out, though. Obviously, who knows what even an October surprise could be at this rate. So one of the election's key states, of course, is Florida, and it's also one of the coronavirus hotspots. We mentioned that Vice President Mike Pence visited Florida today. The president heads there next week. Now, of course, no one has a crystal ball, Josh, but how could the response to the outbreak be a factor in Florida come November?
The president, if there's still an outbreak come the convention, which is going to be held in Jacksonville, Florida, if that's still a health hotspot in a month or a month and a half, it's going to be a huge political problem for the president. We already saw the political consequences of the president deciding to have that rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with a lot of empty seats and a lot of negative health implications from that. You don't want a repeat of that in Florida, and it's going to be interesting to see the two conventions, the two Democratic Republican convention being held in back-to-back weeks. The former Vice President Biden is holding a scaled-down version of the convention with not many people in Milwaukee. In fact, it may just be the Vice President, his running mate, and a small group of people socially distanced. It's an interesting contrast that the Democrats are holding a lower scale convention where the president wants to have a sellout crowd in Florida, which, as you know, Delane, it's a huge health hotspot right now, and it could have some serious political implications, a big backlash for the president if the health situation doesn't improve in the next month.
All right, Josh Kraushaar for us. Josh, thank you very much.
Thanks, Elaine.